and the formula for expected return is probability multiplied by return. So if you come here, we're saying the probability is 0.35 multiplied by return of 15, right? We close the bracket, plus probability 0.4 multiplied by return 11%, plus probability 0.25 multiplied by return, which is 2%. Then let me calculate it and we go together. Then we are saying 0.35 multiplied by 15, we get 5.25. 5.25 plus 0.4 multiplied by 11, then we get 4.4 plus 0.25 multiplied by 2, then we get 0.5. Then we add 5.25 plus 4.4 plus 0.5. Then we get 10.15 is our expected return. This is something that is asked in the final examination. So it's something that we just need to understand the calculation of expected return. Then the question will say calculate the variance. Right. So there are two different formulas for calculating variance. And if you check, I have used all the two formulas on this document or the pictures that I have posted in the group. So now let's look at the first formula that we use to calculate variance. Okay. We can use this formula to calculate variance, you see, or we can use this formula for calculating variance. Okay. So on this first one, we have used the formula that is in the textbook, right? So this formula, we are saying variance is equal to E. E is our probability multiplied by return squared minus expected return squared. So we need to understand this part. This part is expected return. So what we could do is that, what we can say is that our expected return is equal to E R is equal to 10.15. So on our formula, we have just done this. We put in brackets and we say squared. So we already have the expected return. So our formula for variance is saying probability multiplied by return squared. Return is the only item that is squared minus expected return squared. So we're saying let's calculate probability multiplied by return squared, because expected return, which is this one, we already have it. So we take this part, then we are saying E multiplied by R squared plus E multiplied by R squared plus E multiplied by R squared. So our E is the probability 0.35 multiplied by 15, which is the return squared here. Then you also say plus 0.4. 0.4 is our E multiplied by our R, which is the return of 11% squared here, plus 0.25, which is our E, and it's our E here, the probability, multiplied by 2, which is our return here, squared. If we calculate this party, we are going to get 78.75. If you calculate this party, we are going to get 48.40. If you calculate this party, we are going to get 1. Then we add, then we are going to get 128.15. Then now we take the expected return that we had here, then we just square it. If we say 10.15 squared, I've not calculated the value. I just say 125.15 minus 10.15 squared, but you can just go through the long method so that you understand if you are having any challenges. But if you say 128.15 minus 10.15 squared, we are going to get 25.1275. Then this becomes our variance, 25.13. Then if we want the standard deviation, we just see the square root of 25.13. So you realize that in the previous assignments, like the 2021 assignment, we have been calculating standard deviation throughout, and our formula was looking like this. Standard deviation, or SD, is equal to the square root of E multiplied by R squared minus expected return here, E multiplied by R, or in bracket squared, like that. That was our formula. So when we have our standard deviation, there is our answer. We just square to get the variance. I'm sure we understand. If you need the standard deviation, it will be the square root of the variance. This is important. Why? Because it's also asked in the final examination. So we need to understand that. Let's look at also another question here. Expected return and variance. Given the following information for Careful Limited, the expected return is what percentage and the variance is what percentage. We're having different states of nature, which we can also relate to the ones above, which can say this is the recovery, or this is boom, this is the sustained growth, and this might be a recession, right? So we have to calculate expected return. And expected return, we said, it is the summation of probability multiplied by return plus probability multiplied by return plus probability multiplied by return, which means 0.45 multiplied by 16% plus 0.25 multiplied by 10% plus 0.3 multiplied by 3%. Then we get 10.60. 0.45 multiplied by 16, 0.25 multiplied by 10, 0.3 multiplied by 3, then we get 7.2 plus 2.5 plus 0.9, then that's 10.6. So what I can also say is that it is also possible to say 0.45 multiplied by 0.16, right? And say 0.25 multiplied by 0.1 plus 0.30 multiplied by 0.03. But remember, when you do that, your answer will come is like 0.106, and you multiply by 100 to get the actual answer. So I do recommend that you just take 0.45 as it is, and then 16% as it is. You don't change it to a percentage in this circumstance on this question under this topic, so that you get your answer directly as 10.6. You don't need to multiply by 100 to get a percentage. I'm sure to get that.
Sorry, Amen. Sorry.
Yes.
I don't know if you recognize that your cursor is not writing. I don't know if on your side it writes, but from our side we can't see anything when you're writing.
Oh, really? Thank you so much.
Yeah, I don't know if it's me only, but I can't see anything that you've written.
Okay, what about now? Are you seeing?
That's better.
Did you see that I wrote something there? Now? Let me do this. Okay, maybe I can start, then you let me know if you are seeing what I'll be writing, so that we move together. I'm on slide number 2.
Yes, now we can see. I can see from my side, but earlier on I was not seeing anything.
Okay. Thank you, guys. So let me reread. Any challenge, just let me know, so that we are on the same page. Given the following information for Careful Limited, the expected return is what percentage and the variance is what percentage. Yeah, as I just said, that we really need to understand this, because it's part of the examination, and usually question 1, if you get question 1 right, if you maybe 30 marks and you are in a good position. So I'm saying that the formula for expected return is the same: probability multiplied by return plus probability multiplied by return plus probability multiplied by return. So that E on our formula, maybe in the textbook, it represents probability, that R represents our return. Okay, so I have in a situation here when I have different states of nature, and we say states of nature, usually we think in terms of business cycles, right? When we're having boom, peak, and the like, I'm sure we once talked about the probability of a global financial crisis, something that is interesting for someone who is doing courses like risk compliance, credit risk management, and even market risk. Okay, so and just as an addition, You know, last year I've been talking about Evergrande, this Chinese firm which had a debt of more than 300 billion, and we're saying that China can export another financial pandemic. So if it has not yet established that firm or bailed out, it can be a convergence of the failure of American banks colliding with also the failure of the biggest real estate company in China, one of the biggest real estate company in China. So it will be like a convergence, and the global financial crisis can be high. Even the economists are saying that it might not be that substantial, and it can be a recession with a small r, not a recession. But there is a probability of such. So as people are, as we are doing compliance and is also doing credit risk management, it's a point of interest. So yeah, and also we as investors also need to think, what does this mean to the aspect of the US dollar? If I have investments denominated in the US dollar, do I project the appreciation or the depreciation of the US dollar? Something that you have to think in mind, because I know we also do some investments, but it's also something to watch the space. Okay, so we are saying here, expected return probability multiplied by return. We do not need to forget about this because it's asked in the examination. So we're saying our probability is 0.45 multiplied by 16%, and they're saying just take 16% as it is, because if you say 0.45 multiplied by 0.16, yes, you get the answer, but at the end of the day you need to multiply your final answer by 100 to come to a percentage. Then we say 0.25 multiplied by 10% plus 0.3 multiplied by 3%. So here, if we solve, we get 7.2. Here we get 2.5. Here we get 0.9. Then our final answer is 10.6, like that. So that's our expected return. Now let's use formula 2. We've been using this formula from the previous example. We used this formula. See, now let's use another formula here. So just for revision and for your understanding, you can also just think in terms of alternating different formulas so that you understand. But when you are now understanding everything, even using Excel, you know, sometimes I don't need to calculate. I can just have my Excel templates doing this stuff. But in the examination, you cannot use Excel templates. They need to see, do you understand the formula? Do you know the calculations? So we need to familiarize ourselves with how do we go through the calculations. Okay, then we say variance now is equal to the summation of probability multiplied by return minus expected return, or in brackets squared. So let's go through the formula and just indicate the elements of the formula in relation to the values that are displayed in the table. So we're saying summation of E, this is our E or our probability, right? Multiplied by R. Our R is the return in the table. Minus ER. Our ER is the expected return that we just calculated here. So we are saying that 0.45, that's our E, multiplied by 16, that's our R, and that's here. Minus 10.6, that's the one that we've calculated here, squared, plus 0.25, that's our E, multiplied by 10, that's our R, 10.6, that's our E, squared, plus 0.3, that's our E, 3, that's our R, minus 10.6, that's our expected return that we've calculated here. ER that we've calculated, squared. So if we solve this one, we're going to get 13.122. If we solve here, we're going to get 0.09. If we solve this, we're going to get 17.328. And the total will be 30.54. So in the examination, if you're also asked about the standard deviation, we just say standard deviation is equal to the square root of variance. So you realize that I've sent the document with some calculation that have been done last year. So what you can just do, if you have standard deviation, let's assume standard deviation is 5.5, and you need variance. You just say 5.55 squared, then you get your variance. Okay, so if you need the standard deviation to be the square root of the variance, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, let's calculate. Let's go through the last question. So this one is a bit, it is a bit longer because it have got 4 different states of nature, but it's just the same way we calculate. So when we come to this one, it's saying given the information for borderline limited, the expected return is what percentage, the variance is what percentage. Okay, so in this scenario, we've got also different states of nature, which we described previously as different business cycles or economic activity. When we are talking about the capital asset pricing model, which we are going to discuss later, we're saying that it's also a theory that we can use to find the value, fair value of the share. You find that the value or the stock or the share price is influenced also by economic activity, apart from other factors that we can think about, like the information about the company. So you will find that the economic activity influence even the share price, influence expected return. It's something that I might not go into detail about, because we are now talking about theories that are related to stock valuation, like the EMWH model. We do it, but we don't get into detail. We also talk about the capital asset pricing model, which we are saying that is a fair valuation of the stock price. We also talk about the arbitrage pricing theory, but we'll get to explore more when we are covering those aspects. So we are saying now, state of economy, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, probability and return. So as I have been saying, someone can just say 0.4 multiplied by 12, they get 4.8. Then they say 0.28 multiplied by 7, then they get 1.96. Here they'll be saying plus. Then they say 0.12 multiplied by 3, then they get 0.36 plus. Then they say 0.2 multiplied by 3, then you get 0.6. Then you add everything here, you get your 7.72 as we expected return.